Good morning, Isaac State Youth. Hello, and welcome to the second part of this study of the book of Galatians, where we're learning how not only to read the book of Galatians, but to read all of the epistles, all of the letters, and to find principles that we can apply to the rest of the letters and epistles. So yesterday we learned that point number one was to find what is the intention of the author. Why is he writing this letter? Point number two today is we have to learn how to follow along with the thought of the author. Learning how to follow his train of thought and find what are his points, what is he trying to prove, what is he trying to say. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, so chapter 1, verse 11, he says this: I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that the gospel I preached is not of human origin. He's basically saying, listen, I didn't make this up. I did not receive it from any man, nor was I taught it. Rather, I received it by revelation from Jesus Christ. So he left off in verse 10, talking to them about how they are following some false gospel, and how the gospel that he preached, it's the real gospel. And how do they know that? Well, because he received it directly from Jesus Christ as a revelation. Okay, and so he goes on further. Chapter 2, verse 1, he says, then after 14 years, I went up again to Jerusalem, this time with Barnabas. I took Titus along also. He's talking about Acts chapter 15, when they went to this council, and there was this big uproar about, do you need to be circumcised to be saved or not? And so he went there and he's talking about that event. And later in chapter 2, verse 7, he says, on the contrary, they recognized that I had been entrusted with the task of preaching the gospel to the uncircumcised, just as Peter had been to the circumcised. So he's basically backing up his point and telling them that not only did I receive this from God, but you can be sure that what I'm preaching to you is true, because I even went to the Jerusalem church and the apostles all recognized that what I'm telling them is the truth. And so he's basically backing up his point and telling them, listen, guys, what I was telling you is true. You can be sure of it. You know for certain that what I'm telling you is the truth. And then in chapter 2, verse 11, Paul talks about a confrontation he had with Peter, who was eating with Gentiles. And then when Jews came that held to the strict traditions of the Jewish people, even though they were Christians, when he saw them, he got up from the table and left the Gentiles. And Paul saw that, and he saw that it was hypocritical, because Peter didn't live by the law anymore. And so Paul called him out because of that. And his point was that, listen, we don't live by the law anymore. We live by faith. And in chapter 2, verse 20, one of my favorite verses in the Bible, he says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. And so he's trying to show them that it's not about the works of the law. It's not about circumcision. It's not about obeying the law, but it's about faith in Jesus Christ. That is the main point of the gospel. That is the gospel that they need to receive. And I think the lesson that we can learn from reading this is looking at Peter and how he was hypocritical when it came to this question, that he backed away to please other people instead of pleasing God. And Paul wrote to Timothy and he told him to live with a clear conscience before God and before all people. And this is where we have to live, not to please people, but to please God. Because sometimes we can do things, we can make decisions to please other people. And that's not what is important. What is important is that we live to please God. with our decisions, with what we do. We don't worry about what people are going to say about us. We worry about what is God going to say about me? What does God want me to do in this situation? Okay, so thank you for watching this video. God bless you, and stay tuned for number 3 tomorrow. Have a good one.